The story I'll be talking about today is one of the few that I'm still not believing. And although it happened a long time ago, it got famous again recently because of the judgment of the court. And honestly, only TikTok introduced me to this story. But as I told you, it was so unbelievable to my brain until now. I knew that I should make a video for you about it. This is the first time I find a story that genuinely tears my heart apart, but captures me a lot because of the amount of insanity it holds at the same time. I was more surprised that this story took place in Tunisia, an Arabian country. And guys, from the scale of the country, it said that it's the story that shook the whole country. But before we begin, as always, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And let's begin the story. One day, there was a house in Bourkaiba in Tunisia. A normal family was living in that house, consisting of the mother and a father called Munir, and 3 children. The youngest among them was Rabie, who was 10 years old. On the 24th of December 2010, Rabie went to bring something for his sister, Layla. But she didn't worry when the kid got later than usual. Like, what can happen? Maybe he's just with the neighborhood kids, like playing and having fun. But the time kept on going, and there was no Rabie. The mother went to look for her kid. She asked about him, his neighborhood friend, one by one. Then she went to the house of his aunt from his father's side, who was living in the same area, but still had no clue where he was. She wandered around the whole neighborhood, searching for her son and asking about him. When she couldn't find him, she called her husband, and together they decided to reach out to the police. But the police told them that they should wait 24 hours before the police make a move and start searching for the kid. So, after the 24 hours, the parent reported to the police that the kid still didn't show up. Then the police started moving in search of him, but they also failed in finding him. And I want to inform you that the family was certain that something happened to Rabie and not just gone missing coincidentally. After all the searching and failing in finding the boy, Rabie's parents decided to attend a TV show that was popular at the time. The show was called Al-Musamih Karim, which means that the forgiver is generous, to tell their story, to be informed if there's anyone that possibly saw their son or has an idea about his whereabouts or any information to reduce their worry. However, this strange thing happened exactly before the show began. They got a call from Munir's sister, which is the aunt of Rabie, where she said that Rabie is going to come back after some time and that there's no need to go into the show. But the parents ignored that and went to the show despite that. In the show, they told everything that happened, even the problems that existed at that time. You might ask about the problems, like what are the problems? But I'll tell you in a while. But from the call of Rabie's aunt, the parents worried even more. It means that there was really something behind all that happened, as they were feeling that this isn't only a kidnapping. Moreover, Munir, the father, was already strongly suspecting his sister's husband, whose name was Gilani, because the relationship between them wasn't the best at the time. So you'll be wondering what happened between them to have a bad relationship. This guy, Gilani, wanted to marry the sister of Munir, but Munir of course refused to give him his approval. And you'll be like, and why did he of course refuse to approve the marriage? Well, it was because Gilani was already married. Okay, some of you might be confused, not knowing that religiously men are allowed for wives. So if it was like that and the girl was accepting the marriage, why didn't he approve it? It's because Tunisian law forbids polygamy. And if this law was broken, the polygamous husband goes to jail. So Munir told Gilani to go and things with his first wife and get his divorce papers, like he should finish cleaning his mess to get in another one. And then he welcomed him to come marry his sister. However, Gilani did what he had in mind and married his sister without a marriage certificate against his approval. So Munir went and reported Gilani, and indeed he was sent to jail. But at that time, before he got arrested, Gilani told Munir something that made him worry. He told him, "I will do what you will never forget." So when Rabie went missing, Munir remembered Gilani's words. That's why he suspected him. After some time, the police called Gilani and told him news that no father would ever want to hear. They told him that they found a corpse and that he should come to confirm if it was Rabie's corpse, because it might not be his. And he went indeed. When he went and saw the corpse, he didn't believe that it was the body of his 10 years old son, Rabie. And of course, he started crying and screaming, not knowing that the worst is still coming, because he still didn't know what happened to his son. Unfortunately, they found Rabie stabbed 34 stabs and with 17 holes all over his body, and even missing one of his eyes. His male genitalia was also cut. And finally, there were like hieroglyphics. It was like some strange graphics similar to satanic drawings or something. The police informed Munir that his son has been brutally tortured, dead and alive. And the fact that they found Rabie's corpse a couple of kilometers away from their house indicates that the criminal is either someone they know or someone from the neighborhood. And then the family was sure that Gilani was behind it, and they accused him of it publicly. Gilani found that the general opinion was against him and became a suspect of kidnapping, brutally torturing and murdering the 10 years old Rabie. They arrested Gilani temporarily and started investigating him, only to find no enough evidence against him and eventually let him go. Then Gilani was the one to attend the show and Musamih Karim with Munir to prove that he was innocent of all suspicion that people suspected him of. Indeed, Gilani confirmed that he even helped him to look for Rabie and lent him his car to search for him. And he isn't related to what happened to the kid. And he kept swearing he had done nothing throughout the whole episode in a provocative way. However, a new character appeared named Abdul Sattar. And you'll be wondering now, who is this Abdul Sattar? You never mentioned him, now he's appearing? Now I want you to listen to how crazier the story is going to turn out. Abdul Sattar is the cell partner in which Gilani was placed when the police were investigating him. During that time, Gilani and Abdul Sattar got along quite well, or we can call it that they used to chit-chat. And while chit-chatting, Gilani was complaining of how everyone was accusing him of killing the little kid Rabie. Listening to him, Abdul Sattar kept questioning him about the matter until he asked him, "Were you really the one that killed him or what?" Gilani answered that he was indeed the killer. But he didn't commit the crime alone. He had partners, which included his wife, the aunt of Rabie, and the sister of his father Munir. Can you imagine? His wife is Munir's sister, whom Rabie calls auntie. So after that, you don't even trust your family? Well, tell us your opinions in the comments and let's continue the story. So Gilani asked his cellmate how to get out of it. So they started discussing solutions and what he can do. After a couple of months, as I mentioned earlier, he was already released for having no enough evidence against him. And Al-Hatahat was released around the same time too. And then the show took place where Gilani defended himself. And at the same time, Al-Hatahat was watching the show and he recognized that he was Gilani, who was his cellmate. He saw how Gilani was swearing that he did not commit the crime, and he also saw the child that went victim. Then Al-Hatahat didn't know how to keep quiet about what he knew. He couldn't bear guilt of knowing the truth and just ignoring it. After the show, Al-Hatahat began to search for Rabie's house, and he found it. So he told Munir everything he heard from Gilani in prison. And then Munir took him to the police and told him to confess everything he was told. Afterwards, they brought Gilani and pressured him to confess. Then he finally confessed and said everything. If you think that this is the end of craziness in the story, finish and you'll see how it just starts. I mentioned earlier that Gilani and his wife, which is Munir's sister, were responsible of torturing and killing the kid. But here's the surprise. The one who kidnapped Rabie to deliver him to them was his other aunt, not Gilani's wife. It's really a sad thing that not only one family member engaged in the crime, but two of the closest ones. And I'll tell you the weirdest thing in the story now. They went to a wizard to lead them to some kind of treasure. And he told them that if they want to get this treasure, they should sacrifice a little kid. And of course, guys, their witchcraft and sorcery nonsense didn't work. The only thing that they found as a result was the dead body of a boy from the same family and the same blood laying in front of them. And they started to think how to hide their crime. They put the kid's corpse in water, then in a plastic bag. They cut his genitalia so that the corpse isn't identified, although I don't understand how it's related. And certainly what they've done wasn't only to get the treasure, but Gilani's flame of revenge was present and one of the strongest motivations for the crime. And unfortunately, it all came out in the boy. After the police knew all the crazy details, they arrested Gilani and Rabie's two aunts and the wizard that told them about the treasure. And in 2021, they were sentenced to death. And guys, I feel really bad for Munir and his wife. Like, not only did they lose their child, but also the ones who killed him were among the family, literally monsters. Anyways, guys, let's pray for Rabie who left young, and I'll see you next time.